Call to order the May 16th meeting of the Brentwood Board of Aldermen. If you'd all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. A roll call, please.
Alderman Fletcher.
Here.
Alderman Slesser.
Here.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Here.
Alderman Kramer.
Present.
Alderwoman O'Neill. Here. Alderman Leahy.
Here.
Alderwoman Sims.
Here.
Alderman Dillon.
Here. Okay, item number 3 on the agenda, approval of tonight's agenda. Are there any changes or additions to tonight's agenda? Alderman Leahy.
Your Honor, the bill for the conflict of interest, is there a reason that it has to be a first and second this evening? Wouldn't that be better served by being a staggered?
It actually came from the committee, the recommendation to go first and second.
Is there a time element that thing? Because, I mean, this has been lingering around for, 4 months now?
If you'd like to make a motion, you can make a motion, but
Would like
otherwise
to
we
make a-
probably shouldn't discuss it at this point.
Would like to make a motion to offer Bill 6029. This says .1, I guess, because it's
It's
a
just to
revised
show there's a revision. yeah.
revision, and make it a staggered reading.
Okay, so the motion is to move item number 12A to item 10A.
Second.
There's a second, so is there any discussion? Alderman Slesser.
I think the reason that Alderman Leahy mentioned that this has been laggard for 4 or 5 months is the exact reason that we need to move forward with this. I think we also have something on the agenda tonight that concerns a member of the Board of Aldermen, that if this was owned in a partnership of some sorts, he wouldn't have to recuse himself, as we wouldn't have a conflict policy in place. I think this is very important to get passed and through the board.
Your Honor?
Plus, there was very minimal changes to the bill that was originally set forth. There was only one addition to it, so that's why.
Alderman Leahy.
I'm under the impression what you're looking at is the one subdivided on Annalee. Under
Correct.
state statute, the alderman already is complying and recused. This bill, 6029, doesn't add any other chapters that requires him to recuse. The state statute already has that. So whether this is passed tonight or not, doesn't change that status on the other bill.
Alderman Dimmitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of echo the comments by Alderman Slusser at the Ways and Means Committee meeting. Now, I am new to the committee. That was my first meeting. But what became clear is that this bill, or a version of it, has been batted around for more than just a few months. I believe it's actually maybe a couple of years in all different variations. And it was my understanding at the meeting that there really were minor changes that were made to it, and that was the rationale behind recommending a first and second reading at tonight's meeting. I would be in complete agreement of staggering it if this had reached the board for the very first time tonight. But since it had been in front of this board numerous times in different variations, coupled with the fact that there are minor changes to it, I think it certainly warrants a first and second reading at tonight's meeting.
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Lockmiller.
I second the motion because I thought this would be the first time it'd be in front of public view. So even though there are minor changes here, I think they're important changes, and I'd like to see public input over the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? As a committee member, I did listen to the argument that this has been here before, but as a new alderwoman, I'm a little surprised at how many items we have that are due both first and second reading at this meeting. And I would like to see the pace of things slowed down a bit. So I think the motion to slow it down would be a good thing.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. Despite the fact that I was kind of referred to in this particular topic, I think there is a concern regarding your initial initiative to the board, which was to try and stagger the readings more than we had in the past. In this particular case, as in other cases, I think if we take a look at whether or not it's a public safety issue, whether it's a ministerial act, whether it's a matter of emergent need for the city, whether it's an expenditure or an item that's emergency issue or problem for the city. I don't see an issue with us taking a look at this over 2 meetings at the very least. Going back to the Ways and Means meeting, I wasn't able to attend that. It was Cinco de Mayo, after all. However, I understand there was a red line version, there was a blue line version. There have been significant changes. I think significant only because some of the changes that are in the bill now are opposed to what that particular committee was okay with in the past. They voted one way, sent it to the board, came to the board, then it went back, perhaps with a purpose, to receive some changes. And I think those changes could be discussed. The Ways and Means Committee meeting didn't meet for a period of 3 or 4 or 5 months, whatever it was. And again, it's not an emergency that I can see. It's not a ministerial act. It's not a public safety item. There's no harm in letting us take a look at that over a couple meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Leahy.
If, other reason I'd like to have it staggered, in the reading of the bill, it states that we will use the Missouri Ethics Commission form and then do our reporting. The Missouri Ethics form, to my understanding, does not require the real estate listings at all. So I don't know how we use that form and accomplish conforming with this bill.
Okay. Well, I'd like to keep the discussion focused on whether or not we
This
need
is-
to do it.
This is why I think
Well,
it's staggered, we get a chance to.
okay, but you understand what I'm saying.
research it.
I'd
Yes,
like to
sir.
keep the topic focused on the
Okay.
motion before the board, so. Alderman Plufka.
Well, so let me go farther out onto that limb, with all due respect, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Leahy, Alderman Leahy misreads the bill when he says that it's a form that is contemplated by the Ethics Commission. It is simply a form acceptable to the Ethics Commission. It's not one that's produced
Okay,
by them.
yeah, but again, Alderman Plufka, I want to keep the.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the amendment to move item number 12A to item 10A on tonight's agenda, raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that leaves it up to me. It was in fact my, initiative to take bills to first and second reading. And I think that, in general, that is a very good practice. However, I am persuaded by the argument of Alderman Slusser and the Ways and Means Commission, that this has been in front of the committee in public hearing at least 3 times. And I think that there's probably nothing that could be gained by delaying it. So I'm going to vote in favor of having it on 12A, the first and second reading this evening. So with that, the motion will fail. Are there any other additions, changes to tonight's agenda? Okay, I have 2 proposed amendments that I would look to the board for a motion on. The first is to add item 12EI. It looks like it was inadvertently left off a presentation by staff. So the amendment would be to add 12EI and then move 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. So I would look for a motion to do that.
So moved.
That's a bill?
Big Brent?
That is a bill or a presentation?
No, just to add that item to tonight's agenda.
So that it matches D and C
Yeah,
and
because
B in
we will
form.
have a presentation by staff on that bill, so.
I would make that motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to add 12EI, presentation by staff. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the second one is this evening I would like to I would like to add a closed session under item 19 pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute 610-21-3 personnel matters. Obviously, I can't say much about why, but you'll have to trust your mayor. It's important.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, very good. The motion, the agenda will be so amended. Now, if we could have a vote in favor of the agenda as amended, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. We have an agenda for tonight's meeting. Item number 4 on the agenda, consideration and approval of the minutes of the Board of Aldermen meeting of May 2nd, 2016. Are there any amendments or changes to the minutes of the meeting? Seeing none, they'll be approved by acclamation. Okay, presentation and recognition. Tonight, we have a very nice presentation to make. We have an Eagle Scout among us. Noah Lee is from Troop 301, and we'd like to recognize him for his achievement of the Eagle Scout. Is he not?
He does not seem to be here.
I was going to say, I don't see anyone who would be of typical Eagle Scout age. I'm always super impressed by Eagle Scouts, but primarily because I never made it that far, so.
His Eagle Court of Honor is Wednesday night of this week.
Oh, I see. So we're a little early.
Yes, we are a little early.
That's our mistake. We'll go ahead and roll it over, and we'll put it on the agenda for June
20th.
20th? Very good. Sorry. Item number 5.
Your Honor,
Yes.
if you board would so entertain, I will be attending that Eagle Court of Honor if you want to have it presented at the Court of Honor itself.
Typically, we would do these at a meeting. I think probably it's best to do it here,
Okay.
but I appreciate that.
My offers.
But if you would remind them that we're very definitely happy to recognize them, and like I said, I think we just got our wires crossed as to the date, so
Okay.
that would be great. Item number 6 on the agenda, public hearing. Tonight, we have a hearing on the 2017 Community Development Block Grant Program, and Lisa Korkenmeyer is going to present to the board on this, and then we'll have a public hearing.
Good evening. The purpose of the public hearing is to discuss the Community Development Block Grant and outline the usage of these funds. A handout listing the eligible activities under the grant, as well as a sign-in sheet for those interested in speaking, are available this evening. Previous years' allocations of $20,000 in CDBG funds have been used to administer the home improvement program, which is administered through St. Louis County, which provides homeowners with forgivable loans up to $5,000 to make needed repairs on their owner-occupied properties if they meet certain income requirements. These repairs include such projects as electrical, plumbing, heating and cooling, roofing, concrete work, and tree trimming. In addition to the home improvement program, funds can also be used for acquisition of property, improvements to public facilities, clearance activities, public services, privately owned utilities, and the creation of low-income housing. As we see that the home improvement project is well-received and utilized, staff is going to make a recommendation to the board for fiscal year 2017 CDBG funds to be used in the amount of $20,000 to be used towards the rehabilitation of private property for the home improvement program. For the past several years, the board has also authorized staff to waive the cost of permit fees for projects being funded through the Community Development Block Grant Program. So again, that would be our recommendation, is to continue to use this $20,000 in this means.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions for Director Korkenmeyer? Alderman Leahy.
Lisa, we've had a backlist of people that have been asking about the grants. Are we working that list down, or do we select this year's recipients based on an as-need basis?
I guess one thing we definitely would have to check, if maybe the income guidelines have changed. Some people maybe who could have qualified under last year's guidelines, I don't know if they would be eligible under this year's program. So we'd probably have to check certainly on their eligibility. I guess I will defer the rest of that question, though, to the city administrator. I'm not sure if that's been our past practice, just to maybe, contact those that have reached out to us in past years.
So we contacted St. Louis County and spoke to Bob Gibson, and we do not have a backlog. At present, we have one project that's completed, and this is for 15, and 3 projects that are underway. So we are ready to receive applications from those who are interested in making use of this money.
Last year, when we did the grants, I thought we had 3 families that did not get cash, but did apply.
That's not what we're hearing when we spoke to him last week.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now open public hearing on the community block development grants. Development block grants, sorry. Got it backwards. Would anyone care to address the board on the community block development block program? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Item number 7 on the agenda, bids. We have one bid selection this evening, and it's one that's near and dear to my heart. It's for the milling and overlaying of our city streets.
Thank you.
City Administrator Akonde has information.
Thank you, Mayor Thornton. In the fiscal year 16 budget, the board authorized funds to mill and overlay 7 streets and 1 alley. We went out for bids and received submittals from 4 different vendors, Spencer Contracting, in the amount of $590, $617.68. West Contracting in the amount of $573, $755 and 3 cents. Krupp Construction, $644, $996 and 10 cents. And Gershenson Construction, $667, $173.65. The lowest and best bid at the recommendation of the Public Works Committee is West Contracting at $573, $755 and 3 cents.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Alderman Lockmiller.
Madam City Administrator, back in last year's budget, we approved Anna Lee from Litzinger to Manchester Road. The contractor was not able to finish from Powell to Manchester, and that's in this new proposal. But I'm wondering if funds were allocated to him to continue all the way to Manchester Road, and I see a new bid in here for him doing Powell to Manchester. I just want to make sure we didn't pay last year for that portion, and we're paying again this year.
If he didn't complete it, we wouldn't pay for it. So it's based on work completed, but I can look into that and provide a response.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none. Item number 8 on the agenda, hearing of any matter of public interest upon the request of any person present. If anyone here would like to come forward, oh, sorry,
The bids?
oh, do we have to approve that bid?
There's a contract.
Yeah, there's a subsequent ordinance where we would actually accept it.
Okay.
Right.
So that's just the, when we do bids, it's out of order. Questions first, and then later pass the ordinance. Go figure. All right, public hearing upon matter of interest of any person present. If you'd like to come forward and address the board, come forward, state your name. You'll be given 3 minutes. I'd just like to take this opportunity to apologize. I was on my phone just a second ago, but my daughter's home alone, so when she texts me, I quickly look and see what's going on. No one? Okay, very good. Item number 9 on the agenda, we have no unfinished business this evening. No item, bills for first reading only. Item number 11, A, bills to be given a second reading only. Bill number 6063, Mr. City Attorney, bill number 6063 by title only, please.
Bill number 6063, second reading and consideration for adoption, an ordinance amending Schedule 3 of the Brentwood City Code regarding residential parking restrictions.
Okay, synopsis, please. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor, Bill 6063, our second reading regarding the area on Eager Road, protected margins of no parking at Brentwood Court Apartments, their egress onto Eager Road, and at Oriole Lane on Eager Road. The bill covers an ordinance that ensures there's protected margins of no parking 27 feet to the east and west of the Brentwood Court Apartments egress, their driveway apron onto Eager Road, and 27 feet to the east from Oriole Lane on Eager Road, no parking from here to corner. Our Public Safety Committee has made a unanimous motion, recommends approval by forwarding this motion to the Board of Aldermen positively. Bill number 6063.
All right, thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to perfect.
First reading only. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, first reading only?
No, I guess it is.
No, that's the second reading. I'm like, wait a minute.
I'm behind, sorry.
Your Honor,
Yes.
motion to perfect Bill 6063 into ordinance form.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Aldermen approve, perfect Bill number 6063 into ordinance form. Discussion would be appropriate at this time. Okay, seeing none, we'll have a roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Pluffton,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Slusser.
Yes.
Bill number 6063 is hereby passed by the Board of Aldermen and upon signature by the mayor becomes ordinance number 4712.
Okay. Item number 12 on the agenda, bills to be given a first and second reading. Item 12A is bill number 6029.1. Mr. City Attorney, first reading by title only, please.
Bill number 6029.1, first reading, an ordinance amending Title I of the revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Chapter 115, Officers and Employees, adding a new section 115.030, Conflicts of Interest, amending Chapter 135 by repealing Section 135.210 on the same subject, providing for the effective date of the ordinance, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Kramer, synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, here's what he was referring to, Bill number 6029.1, the first and second reading, the conflict of interest policy. The purpose of the ordinance is to set forth standards of conduct for elected and appointed officials, as well as employees of the city of Brentwood. The proper operation of municipal government requires that public officials and employees be independent, impartial, and responsible to the people. That government decisions and policy be made in the proper channels of the government structure, that public office not be used for personal gain, and that the public had confidence in the integrity of its government. In recognition of these goals, this bill establishes a procedure for disclosure and/or recusal of officials and employees faced with financial or personal conflict of interest in matters affecting the city. Our Ways and Means Committee has made a unanimous motion to recommend with approval the first and second reading of this Bill 6029.1 tonight.
Okay, thank you. And being that this bill was heard at the Ways and Means Committee on I believe it was the 5th, I've asked City Attorney O'Keefe to give us sort of the rundown on it and answer any questions from the aldermen. So, City Attorney O'Keefe.
Thank you, Mayor. The bill that's now before the board incorporates state law pieces for instance, what we've done is taken the definitional portions of the state law governing the conduct of elected and appointed officials, moved this to the front of the ordinance so that these definitions then apply throughout and avoids some redundancy which had been in previous drafts of the ordinance. It replaces a reporting requirement which had been in Chapter 135 of the code and repeals that, so we only have one place where we deal with standards of conduct and reporting conflicts of interest. This follows up on state law authority which authorizes cities in the state of Missouri to adopt their own means for reporting and disclosing potential conflicts of interest on the part of elected and appointed officials. And this accepts that invitation on the part of the state statutes by establishing local provisions which dictate what must be disclosed when a conflict exists and when when officials must recuse themselves. It also follows, however, the state standard that in the main, the judgment on the propriety of conduct of officials rests with the voters, as well as with the officials themselves, so that officials are allowed to recuse themselves, but the voice of their constituents is not removed from the decision-making process unless there is, except in very limited circumstances, so that there's an effort to balance the voice of the constituents you represent with disclosure of potential conflicts of interest and then leaving it to the voters to decide whether or not an official's conduct is such that they are no longer worthy of the office they hold or seek to retain. The standards utilized are, for the most part, the standards applicable under state law. There are some additional disclosures required under our ordinance which are not required under state law. These would include real estate holdings in the city by an official or a member of their family or a dependent child, as well as business interests doing business with the city in an extent even more rigorous than state law dictates. The red line, and there was reference to red line and blue line, that's a product of my ignorance, and which I'll confess, they are one and the same, except that when produced on the city's Word program, they come up with blue, and when they're produced on my Word program, they come up in red. So, but the red line and the blue line are the same documents. The edits are the same. The coloration of the indication of what's happening is different. Hopefully, we'll get on the same color scheme. But the bill tightens up standards, puts all these regulations in one place, requires annual disclosure, and requires supplemental disclosure in the event circumstances change, and therefore invests the voters with full knowledge as to the conduct of their officials. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Are there any questions for City Attorney O'Keefe? Okay, seeing none. Mr. City Attorney, second reading by title only, please.
Bill number 6029.1, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance amending Title I of the revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Chapter 115, Officers and Employees, adding a new section, 115.030, Conflicts of Interest. Amending Chapter 135 by repealing Section 135.210 on the same subject, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
All right, thank you. Chair would entertain a motion.
Move to perfect Bill 6029.1 into ordinance form.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Aldermen perfect Bill number 6029 into ordinance form. Discussion is appropriate at this time. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. In preparation for the possibility this might be up for a vote this evening, I did take some notes and wanted to pass those along regarding the language. And as I mentioned before in my comments, there was a change between what was originally entertained by the Ways and Means Committee and recommended by them, and then ultimately changed again. My understanding is the Board of Aldermen already is encumbered by the statutes of Missouri, the Ethics Commission regarding conflicts of interest, and the need for recusal from those same conflicts. And I believe much of this bill is redundant to the extent that elected officials, and indeed anyone who's charged with the public trust, to prevent profiting individually from undue control of city business or legislation is already compelled to avoid and recuse if at all possible. Going through the audit process, as some of us did, I don't recall our audit recommending this exactly. Requiring disclosure of real estate owned by itself does go above and beyond state mandates, casting distrust over a problem that I can't see as existent, so therefore must be non-existent. But if you want to go through the exercise and extend what I really believe is a mistrust of the elected officials, my questions would be, what other comparable cities require the same type of legislation or have the same language? Perhaps we can get a record of those, or we already have it. What other non-comparable cities, large or small, have the same type of language? To be more precise in the goal of transparency, those items that are not regularly discoverable on the internet or in public record. With a cup of coffee in about 10 minutes or so, someone who is perhaps internet savvy could find out much of what's being requested in this bill. But what is not being requested is what I mentioned here, such as leasehold interests, especially commercial property leasehold interests, and campaign contributions should be disclosed as well. To be more complete and focus, all charged with public trust or having ability to influence public policy on contracts or city business, such as all the employees, not only the Board of Aldermen, but the appointed positions of Planning and Zoning, the Board of Adjustment, Architecture Review Board, et cetera, should have the same type of disclosure requirement. And I mentioned a second ago the topic of conflict of interest with regards to the campaign contributions. More than a handful of present and past elected officials of the city have taken campaign contributions from a certain entity here in Brentwood, and then either voted on one of those petitions, lobbied on one of those positions, legal or otherwise, or spoke of his or her company in public or to the Board of Aldermen in such a way as to sway public opinion. Is that a conflict of interest? I believe that it is, and I think most educated residents would say that's also a conflict of interest. If we're going to do this, we should add in the campaign contributions as well. So in the end, what type of city is it that we are perpetuating here? Are we in fact walking a fine and artful double standard line here, and to what end? My hope is that, once again, if we had the opportunity, if the board members here this evening by majority don't wish to send this to committee for review again with some of these options that I bring up. Perhaps we can entertain them this evening, but those are my thoughts, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Plufka.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is no double standard here. The Missouri Ethics Commission requires me and every other elected official to declare every contribution of any substance on several reporting forms. It is available and it is public record. That's what this does in a sense, but extends it to another topic, and that is real estate holdings. But to suggest that not disclosing real estate holdings is somehow too onerous or too much of an invasion of privacy for the elected official, I think it's a specious argument, Your Honor. I just have to say, to put the onus on constituents to use the internet to try to divulge or to figure out through their investigation what holdings we might have, which might influence or at least color the debate that we take up with certain topics here tonight and in the months going forward, is, in my opinion, not defendable. The onus should be on us to make that reporting. We should be the ones that have to declare and disclose for the benefit of our constituents. A community like Brentwood that has gone through the auditing process that we went through, and it failed that auditing process, we now have in place a senior staff who have taken it upon themselves with direction from this Board of Aldermen to put in place procedures and policies to ensure that you can count on reliable, consistent work from the people that are employed by the city of Brentwood. And I don't think anybody could reasonably look at the improvement that has occurred since the time of that audit and not say that the policies and procedures instituted by Ms. Akande and the other parts of the senior staff have not worked. This is extending that same logic to the elected officials. We owe it to the constituents of this community to conduct ourselves with the utmost transparency. It is even more important because of the past that this city has in the way that it's conducted itself, that we do so at the highest level of ethics. This does not put any, it doesn't discourage anybody from holding land. It doesn't discourage anybody from holding different property. It just simply says that when you do, and when it is in the city of Brentwood, you're going to disclose it, and when it is the subject of a piece of legislation, either a bill or a resolution, that you will recuse yourself. That's all it says. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Leahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let's start with Mr. Plufka's comment, if I may. In the city audit, as Mr. Kramer alluded to when we discussed the agenda, conflict of interest was never raised in any of the points by the state auditor whatsoever. In past practice, the last two times that this board has had a member recuse itself, didn't even deal with property. It dealt with a bill about putting back a wall that just happened to be connected with a grocery store development, and one of the board members had a relative involved with that, so they recused. I was the second person that recused myself because a brother was representing a client that wanted to bring a business into Brentwood. So we've never had a problem that I'm aware of where a property holding is creating a problem here to work with. So why we wish to reinvent the law and add more things to it, you haven't made a good case for it. If you look on page 4 of 6 in section 115.030.5, I will go back to my earlier comment about the forms acceptable to the Missouri Ethics Commission and establishing in accordance to their requirements, not ours. Thus, this form doesn't exist if you wish to add this to it. And thus, I would say, yes, Brentwood, you're going a little further than state statute, but you haven't gotten anything to the Ethics Commission to find out if this would be acceptable to them. So I think we're putting the cart before the horse. Unless somebody's got a valid example of something that's gone through that we had an alderman not recuse themselves that would create such a disaster. The closest example I can come to it was Boys Hope, Girls Hope discussion. And at that time, the alderman in question had no contracts that were even out for bid and had no contractual agreements with anybody, so they didn't recuse themselves. They followed state statute to the nth degree. This bill doesn't put in the what if, it says what you hold. So even that example doesn't meet the requirement of necessity of passing this type of a bill. The last argument I will make for you, Your Honor, is the bill that we did discuss with Pasta Pronto to work with. That's the closest example that I could come with as to a potential conflict of interest. It was midway in the discussion that you acknowledged that your wife was potentially looking to become the fourth tenant to that building. Under these arguments, I don't believe that this made a substantial interest or financial change. So even a requirement under this bill, as I read it, would not require you to recuse yourself under that discussion. So I don't see where this bill, again, meets the mustard of anything that's been coming before the Board of Aldermen in the last 15 years.
Thank you. Alderman Dimmitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm having a hard time sitting here and hearing that people are actually arguing against more transparency. And that's what the argument is that we shouldn't have to disclose our real estate holdings in this city. And that absolutely floors me. You know, when I was talking to the people in Ward 1, what I
Alderman
heard,
Dimmitt, could you move your microphone just
Yes.
a little closer? I just want to make sure you.
what I heard people talk about frequently was more and more transparency. They want to make sure and ensure that people are not enriching themselves through the business of the city. That's what the people in Ward 1 want. Obviously, I'm going to support this bill. To the extent that there's an argument that there's no problem, I don't know how you can show that. Because what we're talking about, again, is disclosure of real estate. How do we know when there is no problem when there has not been a disclosure of real estate holdings? Someone could hold real estate through an LLC, never disclose it, so it could be a problem, but we don't know about it, simply because they've never had to disclose that. This bill would address that problem, as I see it, because I think it is a problem, if for no other reason than perception. What do the voters perceive is going on up here? And to the extent we can show them that we are opening up everything, consistent with what happened last April 2015 with more and more transparency, I think it's a real benefit to the city to have this greater level of transparency. I've heard that there are problems, or people are concerned about any type of a chilling effect that this might have. I don't see that being an issue either. What we're talking about, again, is disclosure of real estate. That's public information. Every piece of real estate in this country, in this state, in this county, in this city that's transferred is done by way of a deed. Those deeds are recorded at the St. Louis County Recorder of Deeds office. Those are public documents. Now, to suggest that we have to put the burden upon the constituents and the residents to go and tally up every single piece of real estate that every elected official holds, I think is obviously asking them to do too much. And for us simply to list any real estate that we own or that we have an interest in, or a family member that has an interest in, or that a business in which we have an interest in has an interest in, is the way to do that. It shifts the burden from asking the constituents to do that research to us, to let them know what we have and whether or not we are benefiting ourselves. Hopefully it's not a problem. I don't have any problem or any doubt that anybody on this dais would not recuse themselves to begin with. But again, what we're talking about is the message that we're sending to the voters, and to tell them that we have nothing to hide. Here it is, have at it. And to the extent that there is any type of a chilling effect, to me that is, it borders on speculation. It's a potential downside to doing this. I think that potential cost is greatly outweighed by the real benefit of having this disclosure. We're talking about something real versus something potential. I think we go with the real benefit of having this disclosure. I think that's the best way to go. I think it sends a message to the people of Brentwood. We have nothing to hide, and we are doing everything in their best interest. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Alderman Lockmiller.
I agree with Alderman Demmett, but I think this bill doesn't go far enough. I also agree with Alderman Kramer that campaign contributions pose an undue influence on people's decision-making. Leaseholds, I would like to see also extended to appointed officials of P&Z, Board of Adjustment, and ARB, that they list their real estate holdings also. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman O'Neill.
I'm dealing with the question with the appointed officials also. The first two sections say this is for elected and appointed officials, but then when we move into .03.4, circumstances requiring disclosure, it does not mention appointed officials. So what happened to the appointees?
I'm going to let the city attorney respond to that one.
Actually, subsections 1 and 2 deal with filings by appointed official. Subsection 1 of 115.030.4 pertains to each elected official, city administrator, assistant administrator, finance director, and city attorney. Subsection 2 applies to appointed officials, administrator, assistant administrator, and finance director, and those are tracking state law provisions pertaining to those offices for local governments. And then it is subsection 3 pertaining to real estate, which is limited to elected officials.
May I ask why?
Why?
Well, I don't know that Mr. O'Keefe is the person to whom you should ask that.
I did recommend that it be limited to elected officials because of in most communities, the relatively limited number of people who are willing to volunteer to serve on citizen boards and commissions. And the concern that I expressed to the Ways and Means Committee that excessive disclosure to bodies that make only recommendations. Decisions are made by the Board of Aldermen. Recommendations are made by the citizen advisory bodies. And that it may reduce the pool of talent and available willing volunteers for boards and commissions, when in fact all they do is make recommendations and the decision makers are the Board of Aldermen. And I did mention that to the Ways and Means Committee as with respect to this provision.
Thank you.
And let me just comment on that, because this is something that Attorney O'Keefe and I have discussed. And I think in the case of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and in the case of the Architectural Review Board, you have two, again, volunteer citizen commissions that are difficult to find people for in the first place, and they make only recommendations to this body. In and of themselves, they can take no action. In the case of ARB, as Steve pointed out, I just want to talk about that one as well. In that case, the ARB is actually an adjudicative body. So there is an appeal from the ARB's decision directly to the circuit court, which that doesn't exist with recommendations that come here. So I think, to my way of thinking, those two are different, right? If you don't like what ARB does, you can go directly to the circuit court and appeal the decision. If you don't like what this board does, there's really nowhere for you to go. And so this is being sort of the place of last resort. So I just wanted to comment on that. I'm sorry. Alderman Slusser.
I guess no one listened to the Ways and Means Committee tape. We did take up this topic at length about taking out these other boards. And the decision of that committee at that time was that it should be brought up later and could be added to this topic once that this is a little too onerous for those appointed officials. So it was something that the committee will take up at a later date. Second, this bill had a first reading on November 15th of 2015, and I think it's ridiculous to be bringing up topics that want to change it 6 months later when we've had 6 months to make recommendations to these committees to make additional changes. I also could never speak as eloquently as an attorney, but I agree that to not want to disclose your real estate holdings, the only reason you wouldn't want to do that is if you had something to hide. So, and lastly, I do many audits. There's a lot of phases and aspects to audits. You can't find everything. You don't pay people to be here all day long and all year long to find every aspect of it. I may do an audit for 3 years and then stumble across something on the 4th year that I had never seen before, that I might write up in the 4th year that I didn't see the first 3 years. That doesn't mean that it wasn't a problem the 3 earlier years. It could have been a problem for the last 15 years. I found a fire district that had been giving out gold rings to their employees. I happened to find out this year. It's been a policy in place for the last 20 years that they were not in compliance with IRS guidelines. That didn't make it right for the past 20 years. It just means that no one had found it. So why not have disclosures to make sure that we're following the guidelines that the citizens want us to follow? Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Dibben.
Thank you,
I was
Mr.
trying to
Chairman.
remember who spoke last. I apologize.
Just to follow up on what I thought were the very well-reasoned comments by Alderman Lockmuller, and that is the application of this to other committees, other bodies, and to the comments of Alderman Kramer, the campaign contributions. Fundamentally, I'm not opposed to any of those, and we did discuss those, as Alderman Slusser said, at the committee meeting. But I think at the end of the day, the conclusion was that would be difficult to do just simply adding it into the present bill, because we had a difference of opinion as to whether, as the chair had said, the same type of disclosure for appointees as opposed to elected officials or for employees of the city. What I could tell personally is that we were going to get, for lack of a better term, bogged down in putting together the proper language to have it apply to those if the committee decided to in the first place. Meanwhile, what would happen is that this bill would not get passed. And I think it's important that we get something on the books. And again, we can come back and revisit this at a later time. Passing this does not preclude us from coming back and seeing if we can have an application of this to appointees, or have campaign contributions disclosed in one place as well. Again, to me, I would like to get something on the books. This has been going on and on for quite some time, so that we can then move on and take on some other business. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Lockmiller.
I don't mean to get you mad, Alderman. There's only been one Ways and Means meeting this year. And number two, if we had spread this over 2 readings, I would have had time to listen to your tapes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. There's a lot going on here, and there's certainly a lot of emotion that's polarizing. There's been an inference that there is a fear of disclosure, and I hope that no one up here realistically believes that any of us are afraid to disclose the properties that we have. Real estate holdings, for me, I'm a licensed real estate broker and have been for quite some time. Disclosure is our business, and everything is on public record. I can show you a list of my properties, and everyone has my name attached to it. I don't have any, for example, I don't have any Three Monkeys LLCs or anything of the kind that the mayor has referred to, and that's for the most part, that's for the reason of transparency and visibility. The advantages of a limited liability company, as some of the attorneys in the room can probably speak to, are many. But in my particular case, there's no reason for me not to have my name attached to each and every one of them. I'm happy to provide a list. And I don't really necessarily have a problem with the bill. I just don't, I think that to a certain extent, it's redundant to what's already compelled by the statutes of the state of Missouri. By the language of the bill, almost infers a distrust of the elected officials. And I really do believe that if we are going to do this, we should add in those things that are not easily discoverable. If you type in somebody's last name on the website of St. Louis County Tax Assessor's Office, you can find out pretty quickly the names of the properties and the addresses that are associated with that person's name. I'm sure the city administrator could take care of that in a couple hours or less with a cup of coffee. It's not a difficult project. But my concern is, just as with any piece of legislation that we entertain, especially those that are polarizing, it would be helpful if our city administrator were, or our attorney were, to come forward to us with a listing of those other comparable cities that require the same thing that this bill is requiring or requesting, or even those non-comparable cities that are larger or smaller. For example, some of the language in the bill, was it borrowed from another city? I don't know. But that would be something that that I think would be helpful and perhaps could have taken what we went December, January, February, March, April without a meeting. There was much time when we could have had a discussion or a discovery of those items. Regarding the public trust, you know, the appointed positions, planning and zoning and the Board of Adjustment. Mr. Mayor, you mentioned planning and zoning. Well, depending on the way that they vote, that impacts the way that we have to vote. If they turn down something, for example, our vote changes. There are some things that are impacted by planning and zoning. They do have a lot greater voice in regards to legislation than some people would give them credit for. So to add those people on, I don't think is onerous. Any more onerous than it is to the Board of Aldermen. There's some positions here that didn't have any competition when they decided to file for the position. Sometimes it's difficult to get people to run for the board as it is. But you're talking about something important here. And the campaign contributions, that does require work. You do have to go to the Board of, unless you read 40 South, that does a great job of reporting those things. Unless you go to the Board of Elections Commissioners, that information is not always easily found. And leasehold interests are not easily found. That's something that I think we should add to the bill, absolutely. Leasehold interests, campaign contributions, you know, somebody here says everything that's needed is here. Well, it's not. If you want to go down this road, then we should have more complete disclosure. And I really would like to find out from our city administrator or from our city attorney what other cities have similar language.
Alderman Bluffton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the point that this somehow casts a shadow across the lives or the interests, the prurient interests of our elected officials, it does quite the contrary. It actually sheds light on all aspects of their decision-making as it comes to their bringing themselves to bear on the issues that affect Brentwood. And to Attorney O'Keefe's point when he first introduced this bill, he said very, very well and very eloquently that it blends self-reporting with allowing the public to make informed voting decisions. And that's precisely what it does. It allows the constituents that we serve to understand and know those disclosures and then decide for themselves based on the debate, based on the decision-making of our elected officials to decide for themselves whether that individual is best representing them as a representative of their ward. This makes it a partnership, if you will, between the elected officials and our constituents. And in a community where that has been lacking, in my opinion, for some time now, this is, in my opinion, nothing onerous whatsoever. It is a breath of fresh air. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Slesser.
For the record, I did not have a cup of coffee, but I was able to look and see who Dimmitt for alderman who made large contributions to him online by typing his name in here. So just like the real estate, it is available online. You don't have to go to the ethics committee to point out. Just wanted to throw that out there. And I had a little half a glass of water while doing it, so thank you.
Alderman Lockman.
Can I ask a question of the city attorney?
Sure.
Mr. O'Keefe, would personal residents have to be listed in this real estate?
A personal residence?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Tonight, there's a bill up and they're going to repave, we're going to vote on whether to repave the street in front of my house. Now, would I have to recuse myself from that bill?
No, sir, because the impact on you is no different than any other person residing on the street. The fact that you own real estate on the street, were it disclosed, if you own real estate on the street, whether it's your home or otherwise, would be public record. But you would not be required to recuse because you do not have a substantial interest. You don't have any direct effect on your property from the fact that the street is paved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Alderman Crane.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do have questions on the floor for our city attorney and our city administrator.
I don't, well, they can answer, but I don't think they came prepared with other cities. So, Mr. City Attorney, I guess I'll let you take it.
As I recall, is the language taken from another city. The language is derived almost completely from state statutes. The portions about real estate are an original creation of a very
Cognizant and intelligent mind.
There you go, good job, good job. I have not surveyed other cities. This goes further than many of the cities I'm familiar with respect to the disclosure of real estate as a distinct species of disclosure. But otherwise, this is similar to most local government disclosure and conflict ordinances that I'm familiar with. But I never tried to survey it, just by way of my clients.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I could add, I appreciate that. If I could add, Your Honor, to Alderman Slusser's point, based upon his discovery, it would seem like there would be no issue with adding in the requirement for the additional disclosure of campaign contributions. And one thing that he's not able to find on the internet, even with a half a cup of water, is the leasehold interests of the commercial properties here in the city of Brentwood. So I think we should add that in there as well. And that, all those things would really increase the transparency for the residents, and I think add to the spirit of the bill, which I believe was originally intended, which is to help the residents make up their minds as to what is happening with their elected officials.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Leahy.
Okay, I got a couple of questions because I'm a little lost right now. Mr. Slusser did a quick internet search for Mr. Dimmitt and was very successful at finding what he had. If you type in my name, Keith, you will find nothing.
Okay.
And yet, I have filed all the reports with the Ethics Commission. And that's because I'm not computer savvy. I use paper. And I'll save you the search. They don't have any electronic records. Mr. Kramer mentions that he wants to add different things to the bill, but I don't know, are you making a motion to do that, or are you just carrying it as discussion? Because I have not heard a motion or anything that we're seconding, so the bill stands just the way it's written to work with.
I would agree with that comment.
Okay.
I didn't, again, folks, I'm here to help, so if you say, hey, I want to make this change, then, but I wasn't understanding you to say that. I was understanding you to recommend to the board that you feel that way. So I'm sorry if you were making a motion. I wasn't trying to dissuade you from making a motion.
I understand. Your Honor, if I could just respond, or should I wait?
Well,
till-
no, Alderman Leahy has the floor, so let's
If I
let
may
him finish.
finish. I raised the issue earlier on the disclosure reports. I'll yield to the city attorney. Am I misreading the paragraph, or if the form that the city of Brentwood designs, does it have to be reviewed by the Ethics Commission? How do we make this work?
State law provides that unless local governments, the local political subdivisions, adopt their own means for disclosing potential conflict of interest, they have to, the officials have to abide by state law. And the Ethics Commission has forms for those abiding by state law. Obviously, it also carries that if a political subdivision adopts its own means for disclosure, then the Ethics Commission will accept any reports filed in accord with local standards and accept them as being filed in compliance with the local regulation. I would expect that if we had, say, everything that's on the state form plus X, we would be certainly within our prerogative to take the state form, put it into Word, add another provision and reprint it, and I don't expect you to have any trouble from the Ethics Commission.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. In response to Alderman Leahy's comments, if I could, and I put an asterisk next to this motion because I don't know if our city attorney would necessarily agree with my language in addition to this bill versus him coming up with his own, which would be my preference. My preference would be that this go back to committee and have these items looked at and perhaps entered into in better legalese. But if the board needs to vote on this evening, my motion would be to modify the bill to include leasehold interests regarding disclosure for the parties mentioned. That would be commercial and residential. For example, Your Honor, there may or may not be some elected officials who don't own any property. They have a lease. They're tenants. And that should be disclosed as well. So leasehold interests for commercial and residential, whether it is, as it goes through in the bill quite eloquently, not to use that word overly, for various parts of the family that may be related. As well, campaign contributions should be disclosed, and I would like to further amend the bill to include Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as the Board of Aldermen and the Board of Adjustment. And that's my motion.
Second.
Well, my concern is that we make sure we understand exactly what we're amending. So I took the first part of your comments to only affect section 3 of the bill. Am I mistaken there?
I would understand the first one to be right. A
The addition
motion-
of campaign contributions and leasehold interest to section 3.
I think it's 115.030.4.
Second subsection 3.
And I think there would have to be new subsection to cover some of those things. Because we don't have any terms for a lot of those things. That'd be
Okay,
fine.
very good.
To address the first point, if I may, the question of leasehold interest can most simply be addressed by an amendment on page 406 to section 115.030.4 sub 3A to add the words "or leasehold." Sub A would then be the address of any real estate located in the city of Brentwood in which the elected official or a member of the elected official's immediate family has an ownership or leasehold interest. And in sub B, the name and address of any business with which the official is associated or in which the official has a substantial interest. That one, has an ownership or leasehold interest in any real estate in the city of Brentwood, or 2, is located in the city of Brentwood, or 3, does business with the city of Brentwood. If you want that as a standalone proposition, that would be what I understand that motion
Okay,
to entail.
so I'm going to call that motion A. Now, with respect to the second part, which is the addition of the planning and zoning, I'm sorry,
Campaign contributions.
campaign contributions.
I do not have language on the fly for that. I would like to look at the state laws on, because they define campaign contributions. We're going to have to import a body of law, take a look at what disclosures are required, what is exempt from filing under state law, and whether you want them exempt under a local regulation. And so I do not have a ready response to how that can best be incorporated in the bill in a meaningful way. If you want to throw in the words campaign contributions,
No, it's incumbent upon somebody looking to amend the legislation to give us a relatively good idea of what amendment they're offering. So I think with respect to that one, we're going to have to either, I'll take it as an amendment to table the discussion or to, I mean, it's up to you. But we can't amend that one on the fly. Like I said, all I'm concerned about is
And that
making
was
sure
my concern.
everybody knows what we're doing. So I'll leave that up to you, Alderman Kramer. I mean, you can withdraw the amendment or you can,
And that was my concern, Your Honor. My query was to our city attorney, was it possible to make those amendments without having to either research it or go back to committee? And it would appear as though we need to research that. If that, for example, if that amendment were to be made, it wouldn't be able to be included or worded this evening. So since that is my wish, Your Honor, is to make that amendment, as well as the amendment for the additional appointed positions, I guess I would withdraw my motion, and if the seconder of that motion would be so willing to withdraw his second.
yeah, that's, you're privileged to withdraw your motion at any
Okay.
time. So.
And so, based upon that, Your Honor, I'd like to make a new motion to send this bill back to consideration for the Ways and Means Committee with the provisos to entertain new language that a city attorney might provide regarding the inclusion of leasehold interests for residential or commercial property, campaign contributions by way of state statute language or other advisable language, and as well inclusion of the appointed committees, planning and zoning, and the Board of Adjustment.
I'm going to try to shorten that up for you if you'll let me.
Sure.
I'm going to take that as a motion to call the question and refer the bill to committee. Will that work for you?
Well, sir, no,
Okay,
that wasn't my motion.
okay.
My motion was to send it back to committee with those items intact, to have those items discovered at committee level for action at that committee level. That was my motion.
Second.
We have a second.
Okay.
I understand
Have you
it's
got
not your
the-
favorite language.
No, well, to be honest with
Send
you,
it
I'm
back
not
to
sure you
committee.
can direct the committee what to do when it gets the bill, but we'll go with it. Do you have that, Octavia?
I do.
All right, very good. Can you read it back, please? I've completely lost it. So for the start of the motion, I'm going to call it a motion to call the question. Okay. For those of you who've been following along, a motion to call the question would be a motion to immediately terminate debate. The follow-on to the motion to call the question would be to refer the bill to committee with, Octavia, this is where you pop in.
Okay, so it has to be cleaned up a little bit after, but to send to Ways and Means to entertain new language regarding leasehold interests, campaign contributions, and the addition of planning and zoning members, the Board of Aldermen, and the Board of Adjustments.
Alderman Kramer, will that work for you?
Leasehold interests,
I'm
Commercial
sorry,
and
with,
residential.
I do
It's
have,
just real estate now.
Okay.
Doesn't limit it.
yes, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. Is anyone on the board not clear on what the motion is? Very good. So voting in favor of this motion will be to terminate debate and refer the bill to committee with the following provisos. A vote against the motion will be to continue the debate this evening. There's no discussion of a motion to call the question, so we will go ahead and take a roll call vote.
I would like to clarify first, though, was the second still Lockmiller?
Yes.
No, no,
Oh,
no.
I
no.
think it was O'Neill.
Sorry, it's, Alderwoman
O'Neill.
O'Neill, sorry.
So can you-
He doesn't have to withdraw a second. Since you made the motion, you can withdraw your motion.
No to the
So
motion.
there's no need to withdraw a second.
Just for clarification, I do not want this to go back to committee, so I need to vote no, correct?
If you do not want this bill to go back to committee, if you want to continue the discussion this evening and see it come to a vote this evening as is, then you would vote no on the motion pending before the board. Is
Thank you,
everybody
Mayor.
clear? Vote yes means we terminate discussion, the bill goes back to committee. Vote no means we continue the discussion this evening and see the bill through. All right, roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
No.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
No.
Alderwoman Sims,
No.
Alderman Slusser,
No.
Is that 4-4 again?
No, I actually have 5 noes and,
No, there's 4-4.
Four.
oh, wait a minute, hold
I
on.
counted
2,
4-4.
3, 4, I'm sorry, yes.
So
4
that
and
means
4.
the mayor's up. Let me say this, folks. I'm going to vote no. And the reason I'm going to vote no is because I don't see any reason that we can't go back and amend this bill further at the next meeting or the next meeting or the next. Look, I will take as much disclosure and transparency as this board is willing to give me. I will absolutely sign and encourage you to pass every single bit of legislation that you can that increases the amount of information that's available to the general public regarding any of these topics. I will absolutely always be in favor of that. So I'm in favor of proceeding tonight. I'm in favor of amending and making it even more and more and more. The more information we can put into the hands of the public, the better off we're all going to be, and I absolutely believe that at the bottom of my heart. Alderman
Question, Your
Kramer.
Honor, then what is the emergency tonight?
There's no emergency. Well, I don't know. Are you asking me?
Yes, sir.
I already told you why I voted for this evening. There's nothing precluding us from passing this bill this evening and moving on and amending it and making it better and stronger as we go. Nothing at all. Alderman Slesser.
I'd like to call the question on the bill, please.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we call the question. That means we move immediately to a vote on the bill. So if you're in favor of the motion to call the question, that means that you're in favor of taking immediately a vote on the bill. If you're against moving immediately to a vote on the bill, then you vote no on the motion to call the question. Does that make sense to everyone? So the motion is to call the question. If, again, a vote in favor of calling the question is to proceed directly to a vote. Roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
No.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
No.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
No.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Slesser.
Yes.
That's 5.
5-3. All right, so the motion to call the question is passed. Therefore, we will proceed immediately to a vote on the bill. The bill before the board is Bill number 6029. A vote in favor of the bill is to pass the bill and send it to the mayor for his signature. A vote no is against the bill. Roll call, please.
Mr.
Alderman-
Chairman,
Oh, yes.
just one quick question, clarification. So it does not incorporate no changes?
No, there were no amendments
Okay.
that were
Thank you.
passed by the
Thank
board.
you.
So the bill is as is presented in front of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
No.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
No.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Slesser.
Yes.
Bill number 6029.1 is hereby passed by the Board of Aldermen and upon signature by the mayor becomes ordinance number 4713.
Okay, item number 12B on the agenda. Bill number 6062. Mr. City Attorney, first reading by title only, please.
Bill number 6062, first reading, an ordinance repealing section 215.1330 and 215.1340 and enacting residency, presence, and activity limitations for sex offenders in certain facilities in proximity to schools, childcare, and similar facilities.
Alderman Kramer, synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, Bill 6062, the first and second reading this evening regarding an amendment to our Brentwood Municipal Code. The Brentwood ordinances and state law have long had regulations intended to protect children from convicted sex offenders and violent criminals. The residency limitation distance that is stated in Bill number 6062 mirrors the state restriction of 1,000 feet. This restriction is triggered by the proximity to public and private schools up to 12th grade. Public libraries, public parks, pools open to the public, and child care facilities, gymnasiums, and other places where kids gather are not relevant to the residency limitation. This ordinance also incorporates the city's new felon business proximity regulation adopted last month, meaning there is a prohibition against sex offenders and certain facilities being in proximity to child care facilities and schools. Our Public Safety Committee made a unanimous motion that this request be forwarded to the Board of Aldermen with a positive recommendation for the first and second reading, all contained within the language of Bill number 6062.
Thank you. I believe this bill's actually been in front of the board once before on the previously mentioned ordinance, the felony ordinance. So I guess at this point, if the board has any questions, I'd like to go ahead and just to have them direct them to City Attorney O'Keefe or City Administrator Conde. Alderman Leahy.
Mr. O'Keefe, a couple of questions, because I like what we're doing, but it says other child care facilities. So does a home care qualify for homeschooling? Or if I run a home care for babysitting for the parents while they're going working and work it, is there a certain number of kids that I have to have? Do I have to register this facility with the city in order to make it a measurable establishment? And can I do this after the fact? Assuming I have somebody in the neighborhood that is historical criminal background and I would like to establish so that I can force them to move? Or they get the fact that they're established, I can't make any of these changes.
Let's deal with the last question first.
Please.
This deals only with an offender, a qualifying offender who takes up residence. These are the proximities at the time of establishing residence. If a trigger land use is to be created within the proximate distance of a qualifying offender's existing residence, it doesn't mean anything, okay? So you
He's
can't
there
move
first,
them
it
out
works.
by, you can't move them out by opening a childcare facility. Second, the language here concerning other childcare facility as defined in section 210-201 that is exempt from state licensure but subject to regulation under 210-252. That's state law language, and it does not refer to, well, let me start this way. That means it refers, first of all, to childcare facilities regularly caring for more than four children who are not residents of the facility, and, you know, not a home daycare, or kids of the owner or operator of the facility. So it's 4 non-resident children. So if they are not subject to licensure or regulation by the state, then it is not a trigger point.
Okay.
And the question of exempt facilities refers primarily to religious institutions providing care which are exempt from state licensure but not from state regulation, which is what this is talking about.
Thank you, sir.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Mr. O'Keefe, I refer you to the map right there at the corner of Litzinger and McKnight. There's, I believe, a child care facility there. That 1,000-foot offset would put us into another municipality. And I don't know what Rock Hill's radius is or whatever. Do we default to state distances in that case?
First of all, the state law also already regulates, all these offenders are covered by state law. Child care facilities as defined in this ordinance are already covered by state law. The 1,000 foot is already established by state law. The difference between us and state law is not with respect to child care facilities, it is with respect to pools, public libraries, and parks. Okay? So, state law would prohibit a person residing in Rock Hill within 1,000 feet of a relevant child care facility in Brentwood. But our ordinances cannot be enforced to prosecute someone who lives outside, whose conduct occurs outside the jurisdiction of the city of Brentwood.
Okay, thank you.
So if I understand you correctly, City Attorney O'Keefe, if a person who might otherwise be prosecuted for loitering under our ordinance were loitering at the southwest corner of McKnight and Litzinger Road in Rock Hill, then they would be loitering at their own risk of being arrested by the Rock Hill police.
That's right.
Translation, ain't much we can do outside of Brentwood. All right. Any further questions? Mr. City Attorney, second reading by title only, please.
Bill number 6062, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance repealing sections 215.1330 and 215.1340 and enacting residency, presence, and activity limitations for sex offenders and certain facilities in proximity to schools, childcare, and similar facilities.
Thank you.
Move to perfect Bill 6062 into ordinance form.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Aldermen perfect Bill number 6062 into ordinance form. Discussion would now be appropriate. Alderman Leahy.
If I may, Your Honor, I am looking at the Brentwood Forest area. The Brentwood Forest has its own private pool. Does that disqualify it from being a central point on this area? Because it's not marked on the map.
It's only pools open to the public.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Slusser.
Yes.
Bill number 6062 is hereby passed by the Board of Aldermen and upon signature by the mayor becomes ordinance number 4714.
Okay, thank you. Item 12C on the agenda, bill number 6064. Mr. City Attorney, first reading by title only, please.
Bill number 6064, first reading, an ordinance approving a final subdivision plat of a parcel located at 2419 Annalee Avenue into two single-family residential lots and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay, thank you. My understanding is that Alderman Kramer is an owner of one of these lots and may want to recuse himself, or, I don't know.
Yes, Your Honor.
At the
Very
risk
well-
of starting a whole nother discussion.
Very well telegraphed and no big surprise. Yes, Your Honor, I would like to recuse myself from the further proceedings of this bill.
Before you do, would you mind reading the synopsis?
I would be happy to, Your Honor.
I don't think that puts you at risk at all.
It doesn't.
All right.
Although it's interesting.
If you're not
nuance
comfortable,
here.
I'll do it, but
Bill 6064, the first and second reading for case number 16-02 with the city of Brentwood. It's an application for subdivision plat for 2419 and 2423 Annalee Avenue. Applicants Edgar W. Ellerman Jr. and Thomas E. Kramer. The bill covers an ordinance approving a final subdivision plat of a single lot into two parcels located at 2419 and 2423 Annalee Avenue. Our Planning and Zoning Commission passed by a motion to vote of 5-1, recommending to the full Board of Aldermen that they approve the subdivision plat for 2419 and 2423 Annalee Avenue.
thank you. Are there any questions for Director Korkemeyer regarding this bill?
Would I?
Alderman Slusser.
I just, if you happen to know the reasoning behind the one member voting no.
I don't know that offhand. I apologize. This took place at the April meeting before my tenure, so I'm not sure. But if it's of interest, I can certainly look it up for you and get back to you.
Yeah. The question, I was just trying to figure out the person that voted no, if anyone here knew why they voted no.
No, I do not know the answer to that.
Alderman Leahy.
If I'm not mistaken, this is the second revision to the plating. My question is the existing house that's on the property, is that coming down, or is that going to remain?
Eventually, it will come down. The reason why this went back to the board was back in 2013, there was actually a variance that was approved by the Board of Adjustment granting a side yard variance. But then the plat then that initially showed up to the Planning and Zoning Commission showed a 0 lot line because they thought that variance was still good. So that was the reason for the first plat. Through research, it was discovered that the 2013 variance was now voided. There was a time expiration because the house didn't come down. So then this plat before you tonight is the second plat, which shows the jog in the property line.
So,
If I may, there is no time limit on the existing house to be removed.
thank you, that's where I was
And-
headed.
And the lapse was because the time for the
12
time
months.
within which the variance is valid unless acted on had expired. It didn't have to do with the removal or non-removal of the house.
If the owners decide to take down building number one, then they would have to come back to us and readjust the property lines, because with the jog in there, doesn't that also throw off where they could put a potential building on lot two?
I would-
Because
they-
you have to have the offsets.
They will have to meet the setbacks for these lot lines if they construct while these lot lines exist.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was trying to understand as to why, Bola, I do understand why it's small print, but even with a magnifying glass, there's no way I can read what's been provided. Type thing. The ordinance is good, but the maps just aren't readable. Thank you.
Alderman Dimmitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Slusser, I think I can speak to your question, and the one no vote, if I remember correctly, was his disapproval of the applicant moving the proposed property line. I think what he was wanting to see was the existing building come down first, and then just do a straight line, a straight, simple subdivision of that property.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Director Corkemeyer? Okay, seeing none. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Alderman Kramer, when you passed by, I pointed out that with his recusal, with the board's consent, would like to have his name removed from the introduced by portion of the bill.
Oh,
Consistent with his recusal, he would also like to
right.
withdraw his introduction.
I think technically that would require an amendment, so I'm just going to ask if there's any objection to so amending the ordinance.
No objection.
Okay, seeing none, we'll amend it by acclamation. Octavia, do you have a note of that? Very good. So the ordinance is amended to remove Alderman Kramer's name in the introduced by section of the ordinance, but otherwise, no further amendment. Mr. City Attorney, second reading by title only, please.
Bill number 6064, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance approving a final subdivision plat of a parcel located at 2419 Annalee Avenue into two single-family residential lots and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Entertain a motion?
Motion to perfect Bill 6064 into ordinance form.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Aldermen perfect Bill number 6064 into ordinance form. Discussion is now appropriate. Any discussion of ordinance 6064? Okay, seeing none. Roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Pluska,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims. Yes. Alderman Slusser.
Yes.
Bill number 6064 is hereby passed by the Board of Aldermen and upon signature by the mayor becomes ordinance number 4715.
Okay, thank you. I see Treasurer Rangers has already gone and retrieved Alderman Kramer. Alderman Kramer, congratulations. You're the owner of 2 new lots. Item number 12D on the agenda, Bill number 6065. Mr. City Attorney, first reading by title only, please.
Bill number 6065, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement between the City of Brentwood, Missouri and NB West Contracting, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Alderman Kramer, synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, assume that we are now up to Bill
6065,
6065. Thank you. Our first and second reading this evening, the Asphalt Street Mill and Overlay Project. This bill covers an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator for the City of Brentwood to enter into and execute an agreement between the City of Brentwood, Missouri and NB West Contracting for the fiscal year 2016 asphalt projects, 7 streets and 1 alley. Our Public Works Committee made a unanimous motion that the request be forwarded to the Board of Aldermen for the approval of the NB West contracting project for the asphalt, including the amount of $573,755.03. First and second reading recommended for this meeting, Bill number 6065.
Thank you. Let's see, City Administrator Conde has information for the board on this one.
We expect to try to get this started once school closes. There will be a town hall type meeting so that residents who will be impacted by this construction have an opportunity to meet with staff and the contractor.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Will we be doing curbs and sidewalks in Public Works?
I believe a similar question was asked of Public Works, and staff will be doing that part of the project.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, Mr. City Attorney, second reading by title only, please.
Bill number 6065, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement between the City of Brentwood, Missouri and NB West Contracting and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you.
Move to perfect Bill 6065 into ordinance form.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Aldermen perfect Bill number 6065 into ordinance form. Is there any discussion from the board? Alderman Lockmiller.
I guess I better disclose that I live on Madge, which is one of the streets, and I will enjoy the smooth pavement. Thank you.
I'd like to disclose that I live on Tillis, which was repaved last year, and I'm very much enjoying the smooth pavement.
a really dark village and we'll never get there.
I'm still looking for Brentwood Boulevard to get finished.
Well, we're getting there, sir. All right, any further pertinent discussion from the Board of Aldermen and the mayor? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes,
Alderman Leahy,
Yes,
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Slusser.
Pass. I'm kidding. Yes, I never get to pass there at the end, so I decided I'd give it a try.
Alderman Slusser, it's 8:30.
31.
Bill number 6065 is hereby passed by the Board of Aldermen and upon signature by the mayor becomes ordinance number 4716.
Thank you. Item 12E on the agenda, bill number 6066. Mr. City Attorney, first reading by title only, please.
Bill number 6066, first reading, an ordinance approving a final subdivision plat of a parcel located at 8815 Litzinger Road into 3 lots and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Kramer, synopsis, please.
yes, Your Honor, and just one question. The synopsis seems to disagree with the title.
Yes, I'd like to address that.
Okay.
Oh.
Should be three.
So, synopsis, please, City Administrator Conde.
I'm just addressing the title.
Oh,
I've got
So, second sentence under Bill number 6066 says West Community Credit Union, and I took that from the initial staff report, but actually it's Grace Litzinger LLC. So the ordinance is correct, but the synopsis refers to West Community Credit Union, and that is in error.
Okay. So, Your Honor,
you good with that?
I'm okay with that.
All right.
Bill number 6066, of the first and second reading, case number 16-03, the application for a revised subdivision plat for the addresses 8815, 8825, and 8827 Litzinger Road to create 3 lots of record. The applicant, Eric Kirby, Volts Engineering, in care of the credit union that was just discussed. This bill is for an ordinance approving a final subdivision plat of 3 parcels located at 8815, 8825, and 8827 Litzinger Road, that into one single-family residential district, and establishing the effective date of this ordinance. Our Planning and Zoning Commission has passed by a motion vote of 9-0, recommending the Board of Aldermen approve the language in the subdivision plat for 8815, 8825, 8827 Litzinger Road, as described inside Bill number 6066.
All right, and Director Korkemeyer is here to answer any questions that anybody might have about this. Alderman Leahy.
thank you, Your Honor. Lisa, what I'm looking for is a couple of things. First of all,
Sure.
is the Volt group the same group that processed and developed the 7 houses coming down from High School Drive? Or is this a different contractor?
I don't think she's going to be able to answer that.
Okay.
Apologize.
Because the question I have is the connection, when we did the earlier properties from high school coming down to work with, they have a back alley to get through. This one isn't going to have it. We amended their original petition to give them off-street parking off Litzinger. Are they going to be needing off-street parking on these properties when they go to develop them? Or is there a way to get to the back and put garages and stuff?
The petitioner is here, and perhaps they would like to answer those questions, because what you refer to took place before Lisa or I started work with the city.
My name is Eric Kirby. I am the petitioner on behalf of the credit union. At this time, all we're trying to do is create parcels for each of the existing homes. So the intent is not to develop new homes here.
Okay.
So we just need to create those parcels that are shown on that subdivision plat. If we plan on doing anything in the future, and I'm sure there is plans for that, we'll come back to the planning and zoning and go through that process.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Any further questions for Director Korkemeyer? Okay, seeing none. Mr. City Attorney, second reading by title only, please.
Bill number 6066, an ordinance approving a final subdivision of the plat located at 8815 Litzinger Road into 3 lots and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Motion, Your Honor, to perfect Bill 6066 into ordinance form.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Board of Aldermen perfect Bill number 6066 into ordinance form. Is there any discussion from the board? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Slusser.
Yes.
Bill number 6066 is hereby passed by the Board of Aldermen and upon signature by the mayor becomes ordinance number 4717.
Thank you. And that concludes section 12 of the agenda. Item number 13A on the agenda, we have resolution number 1052. You have the full text?
Not the text, just the synopsis, Your Honor.
Perhaps you can give us a synopsis, Alderman Kramer.
Sure, Your Honor. For Resolution 1052 for the City of Brentwood, a special use permit for the consumption of beer, wine, and liquor at the City of Brentwood Park event for 2016. Our Parks and Recreation Department is seeking approval to provide for the consumption of beer, wine, and liquor as stated in 600.040 of the Brentwood Municipal Code. There are a number of events each year the Parks and Recreation Department requests the ability to provide for the consumption of beer, wine, and liquors. The city's first Music on the Menu will take place on June 19th, 2016. Our Public Works Committee made a unanimous motion for approval to the full Board of Aldermen for the consumption of alcohol and the music of the park, Resolution 1052.
All right, thank you. Director Grunenfelder is here to discuss any questions related to the resolution, if any of the board has questions. Seeing none, all in favor of resolution 1052, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Resolution 1052 is adopted. Item number 14 on the agenda, accounts against the city, Alderman Slusser.
I have reviewed the report with the city administrator and recommend its approval in the amount of $49,248.23.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the board approve the warrant list as submitted. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Slusser.
Yes.
Okay, very good. The warrant list is approved. Item number 15A on the agenda, under my report, I just want to say there was an awful lot of discussion up here this evening, and I think it was all very, very good discussion regarding, I guess the title of the bill was somewhat misleading. It was called conflicts of interest, but really I think it's about transparency. And I just want to say that for anybody who's read my public statements on the matter, I think you probably know how I feel about it. But I think that any amount of information that we can put into the hands of the voters regarding who, how, and why we do our jobs up here is only beneficial to the voters and to the community as a whole. We have a bit of a reputation stemming from the fact that some things happened a few years back that we're not necessarily proud of, and I think one of the things that I find most frustrating about my present position is that I read comments in public forums that suggest somehow that I'm getting rich from development in Brentwood, or I'm somehow involved in development in Brentwood, or one thing or another, and it's really, really frustrating to me, because nothing could be farther from the truth. My only desire for development in Brentwood is that it gets a fair hearing and comes to us in a manner that's educational for the community, and that's the only interest I have in any development that takes place, with the possible exception of a State Farm office for my wife at the corner of White and Litzinger. But if we ever do come to that, then I will certainly recuse myself from those deliberations. So I think, in my opinion, I know a few of the aldermen felt that the bill could have been tighter and could have been much more strenuous. I'm happy if they want to make those changes, and I'm happy to include them. I do think it's a bit of a mistake to include the appointed boards. They do make recommendations only. They don't have any real powers, and believe me, as the person who's tasked with filling those commissions and those appointed committees, I will tell you that the job of filling them is not easy. And so to the extent that you feel it's necessary to impose that upon them, you will be making the job of this mayor and any future mayors you elect harder, and I can promise you that. But that's not a reason not to do it, it's simply a consequence. If you think it's important, and this is by far one of the most important topics we can take up, then by all means, let's go ahead and do it. But it will make things more difficult for the person sitting in this chair. With that, I'm going to conclude my report, because it's 8:41. Public Safety Committee, Alderman Plufka.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public Safety Committee will meet this Thursday at 5:30 in this room. I believe it's the 19th of May.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Public Works Committee, Alderman Leahy.
The Public Works Committee would like to bring forward to the Board of Aldermen for their consideration and potential approval. We have a request for a change order on the Litzinger Road pedestrian project. There is a number of light posts that the city has received 5 to 6 requests to dim the lights on Litzinger Road. The engineering group has reviewed it. We're looking at an expenditure of a little bit more than $9,800 that we project could come out of the capital improvement account, because under the street arrangement, we just saved $54,000 to work with. We requested through the state of Missouri, MoDOT, to have them look at possibly picking up the cost of this change order. They have turned it down because the current lights meet the specification on the architect drawings to work with. Thus, the full bill of $9,800 would be picked up by the city of Brentwood to work with. But they are asking that we approve a change order. I don't have the exact amount, Bola. so
$9,825.37.
I knew there was some pennies in there. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to take that as a proposal for a resolution.
Yeah, we need authorization to authorize the change order,
Right.
and the board has to authorize it.
Right.
Okay, so I guess I'm going to take that as a proposal for a resolution. Resolved that the board authorize a change order in the amount of $98.25. Thank you. I
37
couldn't get that
cents.
last digit.
Yeah.
To install adjusting switches on the lights on Litzinger Road. How about that? So, is there a second for that resolution?
Second.
Yeah, okay, moved and seconded. Discussion from the board. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor, if I could. Bola, I understand the complaints. How did we arrive at the recommendation of what was installed? I guess let me rephrase that. Due to the nature of the complaints, it would appear as though we had installed some lights that were different from what would be installed in any residential area. Why do you think it was that these were so inferior, or what do you think is it about them that's causing the issue?
I would venture to say they're not inferior. We had at least 3 opportunities, bless you,
Bless you.
for residents who live along Litzinger Road to meet with the engineers. We made adjustments to the preliminary design based on the feedback. As a matter of fact, what we heard loud and clear was a need for lights. People wanted to see who was walking by their house in the evening. Gerstner Electric was the vendor on this, or the contractor on this. So I would be guessing if I venture to say why or how residents are reacting to this, but this is the type of lights that the electrical engineers feel would be appropriate for this area. Now, we've heard that it's too bright. We explored either putting shields. The other alternative was dimmers, and the recommendation was that dimmers would be a better fit. And if we were to install it, then the Public Works staff would be the ones controlling whether we dial it up or down, not individual residents, it wouldn't be accessible to people other than us.
And you, Mayor, if I could follow up this, so
Sure.
the decision of the dimmers versus the shades or the blinders, who made that decision?
It was made by a combination of folks, the engineering firm, Horner Schifrin, and Gerstner Electric, the electrical contractor on this.
Last question, sorry.
Okay.
As you go on Litzinger from Brentwood Boulevard to the west, there seems as though there's maybe one place where there could have been a light, there's not a light. Do you know what happened there? Roughly between
I believe that
high
we
school
didn't
and
have
Brentwood.
the authority per the property owner to
Ah.
install it there.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Plufka.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have just a couple of questions. So the device, there's multiple devices here that'll be installed in each lamp?
Each one,
And
right,
then controlled from some central location?
right.
So will there be some flexibility on the part of Public Works, depending upon future complaints or some consensus that it's either too bright or too dim?
Absolutely.
That it can be adjusted?
Exactly,
And it can be adjusted more than once?
right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Leahy.
It's because of that fact that I would like to suggest that the board not pass this change order. You're into a subjective decision, and in this case, 5 to 6 people that live along Litzinger are affected by the lighting. When you go to spend the money and you put dimmers on it, what happens when you get 3 or 4 more people that says, this light and this light, I want to have brighter or even dimmer? And you start changing up and down the whole system. I would prefer and suggest to the board that you stay with the engineer's original recommendations and layout of the entire facility, and we leave it the way it is. Because I do not believe it's justifiable, under even the 6 total request, to spend $10,000 or just shy of $10,000 to start playing with personal feelings of how you like lighting. Because I don't think you'll ever make anybody happy then, and that would just become a mess.
Alderman Dimmitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A good portion of that does run in Ward 1. And as we discussed at the committee meeting, I had a number of residents who live on Litzinger talk to me about this issue. And, it's one thing for us to sit up here and say, it's not a problem. What's the real complaint? But, our houses are not the ones that are being impacted by this. I'd venture to say if any of us had a street light constructed outside our house and it was bright enough that it came in and it caused us to have to shut our blinds at sundown, when we normally wouldn't do that, and even at that point, it still illuminates the inside of our house enough that interior lighting isn't necessary, I'd be willing to bet you that everybody up here would be upset about that. And that's what I was confronted with, are those types of complaints. I'm not going to question whether that happens or not. I'm going to take the people at their word that it is a problem. And only thing I was curious about is whether or not we could take the position that this expenditure is something that should have been incorporated in the original plans, and so that the state would, or the federal government would have to contribute on an 80-20. And I was convinced that that's not the case. So that being the case, I would support us going ahead and making this change.
Alderman Kramer.
Your Honor, just a point of clarification. BOLA, these dimmers will be on all the lights, not just the ones from high school to Brentwood on Litzinger.
I couldn't say definitively. I just know that we intend to install it so that we would have the ability to adjust all the lights.
So the intention is for them all to be the same?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Plufka.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the minutes, the memorandum, it suggests at the bottom of line 2 that staff recommended this change order. Did the committee, maybe I just don't know, did the committee vote on that recommendation? It's not reflected in the memorandum. Well,
Page
it's-
3.
Well, page 3 says.
Page 3.
Well, no, but page 3 talks about the MB West contracting asphalt project.
Oh, yeah. The motion was, it was a unanimous recommendation from Public Works Committee.
So, my question is more for Alderman Leahy. You voted in favor of it out of committee, but you're recommending against it today?
Yes, I voted in favor from the committee side to bring it to the full board. And that's what we're doing. And I'm reporting here, and I'm making my personal recommendation that we not go that far to work with. Thank
Alderman
you.
Lockmiller. Well, did this project originally come in under budget?
I couldn't say right at this point. I'd have to look into that. But, you know, we did ask MoDOT whether this change order could be part of the total project cost. And they declined. They said no. This is a change that the city is now making after the preliminary design, after we had solicited input from residents through multiple town hall type meetings. Therefore, this, they did not believe warranted it being part of the total project cost. There possibly might be savings. Most often, there are always savings in projects of this type. They just said no.
Okay, thank you.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
I have a question. If this affects other places in the city, I have an Ameren street light in front of my home and have special window treatments because of that light. Does that mean I or some other resident can come to the city and say, we would like changes on the streetlights by our homes?
You absolutely can. Because Ameren lights are different from a street decorator lamp. Ameren lights, they will come look at it so long as it's on their right-of-way and not on a private property. They might be willing to install shields on that. And we continue to get requests from residents all the time asking us to take a look at that.
Yeah, the difference is we own these.
Yes.
Is there one in front of your place that we need to look at?
Pardon?
Is there one in front of your house that we need to look at?
It's on common ground in Brentwood Forest.
So we would have no authority there.
So, yeah.
Alderman Leahy.
To respond to Alderman Dimmitt's arrangement, I too have an Ameren light 5 feet off my property, and it is on dusk to dawn. I too had to go out and buy the shades to make it work for both not only the living room, but also for the bedroom to work with. I didn't think it was reasonable to ask the city to come in and pick up that expense, and because it's on other property, I don't have control over it. It just is a fact of life.
Alderman Dimmitt.
Alderman Leahy, if I can direct a question. When you bought your house, was that light there?
Yes.
Okay, there's a big difference as I see it, where you buy a house knowing it's like buying a house next to a golf course, and then you complain about golf balls in your backyard. That's not what happened here. What happened here was these lights went in, and when these people bought the house, the lights weren't there.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the resolution? Seeing none. The resolution is to authorize the change order, so a vote in favor is to authorize the change order and have the dimmers installed. A vote against is to not have that happen. Roll call, please.
Alderman Dimmitt,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Leahy,
No.
Alderman Lockmiller,
Yes,
Alderwoman O'Neill,
No.
Alderman Plufka,
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Slusser.
Yes.
Okay, I counted 6-2.
Yes.
The resolution passes. We will go ahead and authorize the change order. Anything further, Alderman Leahy?
Nothing else.
All right, very good. Director of Planning and Development.
I'm sorry, may I ask, Bola, what is the projected timeline for the installation? Oh, sorry.
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll get an update after the
Exactly,
word. Yeah,
yeah.
very good. Director of Planning and Development. Director Korkenmeier has a report for us.
I just have one item for you tonight. The Board of Aldermen approved a cooperative agreement providing for the formation of the 8750 Manchester Road Community Improvement District back in December 2007. Annually, the CID forwards its board members to the city for approval. Your meeting packet had included the 8750 Manchester Road CID 2015 annual report. The board of directors were listed in there. The CID board members are appointed by the mayor with the consent of the Board of Aldermen. Also, we've contacted Ms. Reichert, who's Secretary Treasurer, employee of JSD Management, and she confirmed that all board members do meet the qualifications set forth in the cooperative agreement with the Board of Aldermen. So this evening, I'm requesting that the board approve the Board of Directors for 8750 Manchester Road Community Improvement District.
Are there any questions for Director Corkemeyer? By the way, I just want to tell you how good it is to say Director Corkemeyer and have you here.
Thank you.
No questions. Very good.
All right, thank you.
So,
Motion to approve Resolution 15-001.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded that the board approve 15-001, which would be the appointments of the 8750 Manchester Road Community Improvement District as submitted. Is there any discussion? Seeing none? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Excellent, we've approved the Board of Ways and Means Committee. Alderman Slusser.
June 2nd, 2016, the committee will be discussing the 2015 audit.
So for an exciting evening of audit discussion, come round on June 2nd.
It's my Super Bowl.
I was going to say, conducted by the man who's forgotten more than any of us up here will ever know about auditing, so. Mr. City Attorney.
I couldn't touch that.
It's a wise man you are. Madam City Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor Thornton. The Communications Committee has been discussing how the city can better market itself since last fall. They requested that we issue a request for proposal based on some of the comments that you had made, Mayor Thornton, regarding our ability to start recording all our committee meetings and all our, well, we record our board meetings currently, but all the other committee meetings, Board of Adjustment, Architecture Review, Ways and Means, Public Safety, Public Works. The proposals that came back were so cost prohibitive that we decided at this point to spend more money, as is in the 16 budget, to update the audiovisual equipment in this room. But in further discussion, we have also an opportunity to put our a good foot forward by recording Brentwood's annual Madden Fest, Brentwood Days, that takes place in the month of September. So we did ask for quotes for a 3 to 5 minute promotional video of Brentwood Days to include the parade, the fireworks, the bands, the rides, people, fire demonstration, and the recommendation from the Communications Committee is that this be awarded to Avatar Studios at a estimated cost of $7,534. There is money in the community services budget to underwrite this expense.
Thank you. Are there any questions for City Administrator Conde? Alderman Leahy.
If I may, Bola, did we have previous videos for our Madden Fest that we've done internally to work with?
I couldn't speak to that.
I thought we had the thing. I remember Kevin videotaping the parade and running around the Brentwood Park going through it. The second question I have is, nice to have a 3 to 5 minute video, but if our intent is to promote it, I thought we were getting a lot of residents' complaints that Brentwood Days or Madden Fest should be for the Brentwood residents. If you promote it, won't you increase your out of Brentwood people coming into it?
No. First of all, I have never heard the complaint that residents believe that we promote this in such a manner that those who don't live in the community attend. However, what this does, it serves a greater purpose. So when you look at the comprehensive plan, it says, and I want to refer you to that because I have it in here, to develop a marketing program that emphasizes the city school system, nearby shopping, centralized location to young, family-oriented households. The marketing program should also highlight the benefits of long-term home improvement and investment value in purchasing a home in Brentwood. So what this does is it's a building block
For Brentwood.
to what we would use to better market our community, not just to families and people who want to move into our community, but to businesses who are interested in moving into our community.
The last 3 years, I have submitted requests to the Madden Fest group that we look at the carnival rides, because the request that we've been turning into the city from the residents was that non-residents of Brentwood were getting free rides and taking up space, and thus the Brentwood residents had to wait longer. And the question was, could you sell ride bracelets to the Brentwood residents for free, and then out of Brentwood residents to pick up a cost to help cover some of the ride cost? And that's been talked about the last 3 years that I've submitted to the committee to work with, and each time the answer comes back is that it changes the carnival contracts arrangement.
It completely does.
So that's where I'm getting the citizen input that says, are we promoting Brentwood Days to bring in more attendance?
We promote Brentwood Days within our community.
Okay.
Word of mouth obviously helps promote it even more.
Yep.
So our primary audience stays as Brentwood residents, and I'm sure you know, people who live here bring families and
Oh,
friends.
everybody comes.
So it's really hard to determine who's a resident, who's not, when you're all standing in line.
Yep.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
I'm unfamiliar with the whole total video concept here, so can you tell me what the intended length of that would be, and what percentage of that length would be party days at Brentwood Days?
All of it. Party days, meaning the parade, is that what you mean by party days?
Let me, Chairman Coulter presented sort of this idea to me, and so since she's not here to speak on her own behalf, I'll kind of share with you what she shared with me. Not by way of, well, I think it's a good idea, but not by way of talking in favor, but just to share the information as she presented it. And the idea is this, is that we would follow the recommendation that's in our current plan, which is to promote Brentwood through promotion of the schools, the commercial district, the et cetera, et cetera. And so what we would do then is, generally speaking, develop a marketing or promotional material for each one of those aspects. And so the first one that we would promote is the community aspect of Brentwood, with a 5 to 7 minute video of essentially focused on Brentwood Days. There would be subsequent videos produced that would focus on the Brentwood school system.
National Night Out.
The various other things that we'd want to produce. So this would be a building block rather than a standalone project. It wouldn't just be to promote the Madden Fest. It would be to promote Brentwood generally, and the idea would be to use it in conjunction with these other pieces that would be produced at a later time. So, and all of that would be sort of consistent with the plan of, hey, this is how you promote the city. I will say to Alderman Leahy, I have seen actually one of the videos that you talked about earlier. Yeah. It featured bell-bottom jeans and afros.
But my point.
I'm joking. It did seem rather dated.
My point is that we have been able to produce these, and I don't recall us running this expenditure to work with. Now, maybe Mr. McCarthy was paid on an hourly basis and worked, and it fell underneath the 2,500 for the warrant list.
He was a full-time city employee who did this.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Ms. Coulter would probably respond that you get what you pay for.
I'm on the communications committee, we discussed this. They're going to be filming the entire day. Mm-hmm. And even what they end up producing for us regarding Brentwood Days, we have ownership of that, and we have ownership of this footage they don't use. So that footage can be incorporated into other marketing ideas.
Any further discussion of the resolution? Is it a resolution?
It's not, it's just authorization to expend $7,500.
So we'll call it a resolution, resolved to authorize this expense of $7,534. $34. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Mr. Excise Commissioner.
No report.
Madam Library Correspondent.
No report.
I don't have anything to say on the Municipal League. Historical Society, Chief. It's my kind of meeting. No, it's not. It's 9:05. Item number 16 on the agenda, announcements. Alderman Slusser.
I would let the board and residents of Brentwood know that this will be my last Board of Aldermen meeting. My last day as an employee or elected official of the city will be June 3rd. I love Brentwood so much, I decided to buy a house on the other side of the street and overpay for it. So I will become a pest for the Daves in Ward 1. And so this was my last board meeting, so that's why I had to do the joke about the past thing. So I've enjoyed my time here on the board. We'll finish up my last meeting on Ways and Means Committee, and just want to remind everyone, in my experience, that the staff we have here is exemplary, and they should be treated as such. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I just want to thank Alderman Slusser. I just want to thank Alderman Slusser for his service, and I tell him he will be sorely missed. What he brings to the table here is truly valuable to all of us up here, and we'll miss him. And not that we're losing him, but off to Ward 1 he goes. So I also want to mention that pursuant to state statute and city ordinance, we will be calling a special meeting for the appointment of a replacement, a resident from Ward 2. I have a number of people that I've been speaking to about that. And I will make that recommendation at the well, actually, I'll give you the recommendation prior to the special meeting so we can have that. The reason it's a special meeting is because that's what the statute and the ordinance, which tracks the statute, says we have to do. So I'll be in touch with the board to see what the most convenient time is for a special meeting. I'm thinking right now June 6th might be convenient because it's the day we would normally meet, but for the fact that it's June and we don't have June meeting first Monday. So if that'll work for everybody, the only topic on the agenda will be the appointment of the new alderperson. So, very good. Any other announcements? Alderman Lockwood.
We'll have Ward 3 meeting here Tuesday, the 31st, 7 o'clock in this chamber.
Very good. Any other announcements? Okay, seeing none, new business. Is there any new business before the board? I don't believe so. Item 18 on the agenda, hearing of any matter of public interest upon the request of any person present, and I see Ms. Charbonneau already moving in our direction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given the lateness of the hour, I'll talk real fast. I was originally going to refer to the individuals who voted nay this evening on the conflict of interest bill as the dissidents, because that's how I like it myself. But perhaps it would be better to say that you're advocates of super transparency, just as we have super pave on the Brentwood Boulevard, which is promised to last till I'm dead anyway. We have two aldermen, the left hand and the right hand. Mr. Plufka says that it's an onus on constituents to discover information. Mr. Jimmons says, put the burden on. Onus and burden? It's almost like they practiced ahead of time, but no. I would like, and I spoke at Ways and Means to the addition of campaign contributions, and I support Mr. Kramer's suggestion that leaseholds also be included. I'm urging the adherents of super transparency to please don't drop the ball on this. Please follow up and get this done. Additionally, my other problem is with the phrasing that the reports shall be available for public inspection and copying during normal business hours. That presents a conundrum, and I think, Mayor, maybe at the coffee, at some juncture, I had said perhaps it could be on the transparency portal.
Yes, absolutely.
Available as a document there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I understand that that can become a mixed bag because you can have someone become angry with, well, Mr. Slusser be gone. Someone could become angry with Mr. Plufka and see where he owns a property and go shoot the windows at. So that's a conundrum for myself. But if we're going with super transparency, then I would like to see on the transparency portal. If I can go see the fact that Ms. Shaw signed a check to so-and-so for luncheon for the chief's retirement, that's just made up, I don't know. But anyway, thank you. Thank you for your discussion tonight. It was coherent and cogent and did justice to our way of life. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Karen Meyer, 8726 Pine Avenue. The issues tonight prompted a great deal of strong discussion, And I wish to compliment everyone for conducting our Brentwood business with such politeness. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further, anyone care to come forward and address the board? Okay, seeing none, would any of the aldermen care to respond? Okay, very good. Item number 19 on the agenda, could I get a motion to move into closed meeting?
So moved, Your Honor. For a personnel matter.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the board enter into closed section pursuant to RSMO 610-0213 to consider a personnel matter. Is there any discussion?
Do we have to do something special to end the regular meeting so that people don't stick around, or?
Actually, we can adjourn right out of the closed session.
Okay, just to let people know, I guess.
I'll tell them after we pass the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Demmett.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill. Yes. Alderman Plufka.
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims. Yes. Alderman Slusser.
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous. We will now enter into a closed session. We'll reconvene in 5 minutes upstairs in chambers. For those of you in attendance this evening, we'll adjourn from the closed session, so that's all you're going to get tonight. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.